I'm Martin from Reedsy, and you may be able to tell by my green visor that today I'm going to be updating a video I put out over a year and a bit ago talking about the costs of self-publishing a book. A lot can change in 14 months, so I'm going to go through the average rates that you can expect to pay for things associated with publishing independently, including editing, cover design, formatting, marketing, translation, and ISBN registration. Of course, in this world of self-publishing, the author themselves is the publisher, and accordingly they can choose how much or how little to spend on producing and issuing their own book. If you really wanted to, you could publish a book without spending a penny beyond what it costs to power your computer. However, what I'm going to be talking about today is the cost of publishing to a professional standard. The opportunities open to independent authors these days are incredibly exciting. You actually have the ability to compete with books from traditional publishers when you're selling online. A book that you put out on your own can sit directly beside something from HarperCollins when you're selling through Amazon or Kobo, in a way that wouldn't be the case if the majority of people still bought their books in brick and mortar stores. But with that opportunity comes massive competition. Your book needs to stand out even more than before. You need covers that will attract the right sorts of readers, or your target audience will never discover it. Your book has to deliver on expectations, both in terms of content and how it looks on the page, or you risk readers not reviewing it or recommending it to their friends, two things which are massive drivers of sales for any book. It would be great if we lived in a world where only the ideas and content of a book affected its ability to reach an audience, and perhaps one of these days one of us will write a novel about a world where appearances and execution matter less than creativity. But for now, making sure that your book is as close to the standards of the stuff that the big kids put out is something within your control for a price. And of course, disclaimer, Reedsy is a marketplace where you can hire world-class editors and designers and translators and marketers, so naturally I will tell you that professional editing and design and marketing and translation is paramount. But two things can be true at the same time. If you're looking to make your book the best that it can be and give it the best chance of success, this is what you might be looking to spend. The average figures I'll be sharing today come from crunching tens of thousands of offers made by Reedsy freelance professionals, the vast majority of whom have years of experience at traditional publishers, including some of the biggest companies in the world. So we're working with a pretty robust picture of the top tier of services. Let's start with editing. Okay, this is the most labor-intensive part of the production process, in the sense that it often takes the most time out of a professional. Whether it's reading through an entire manuscript to provide detailed general feedback, or poring over every single sentence to make sure it shines, it takes time, focus, and years of experience working with authors to know just what it takes to guide your manuscript to where it needs to go. So, dusting off the old Reedsy editing cost calculator with its updated figures, let's have a look at the average cost of editing a book. As the Smiths almost once said, some books are bigger than others, so for the purpose of our exercise, I'm going to assume that everybody is writing an 80,000 word book. Oh, if only. In paperback, that's usually under 300 pages. So for us at Reedsy, editing is split into a few different sub-services: developmental editing, editorial assessment, copy editing, and proofreading. We often use the metaphor of a sculptor to describe the various stages of editing, with the writer's initial manuscript being the raw material. The job of the developmental editor is to help the artist or writer understand what they have in front of them, and what broad strokes need to be taken to make sure that the story gets into the shape that they need it to be in. We're talking about structural feedback, characterization, the commercial potential of your manuscript based on their years of experience in the industry. They might dive in and edit a few paragraphs as an example, but apart from that, most of their feedback will come in annotations in the margin, as well as a detailed editorial letter. The purpose of this edit is to guide your next rounds of revision. There will almost always be work for you to do after this stage, but you will ideally leave with a plan and the confidence to execute it. So the average cost of developmental editing on an 80,000 word manuscript on Reedsy in 2026 is $2,880, which is roughly the price of an IKEA Yotobo modular sofa. In our analyses, we've also split our data into genres. Editors will often charge more for certain types of books, ones that require extra expertise or are a bit trickier to navigate. Romance editing, for example, tends to have a lower average rate, whereas editing a non-fiction business book tends to run a little higher. An editorial assessment is something that you can request often in place of a developmental edit. The purpose is the same, that that big picture feedback, guidance on revision. There will be a detailed editorial letter, but there won't usually be annotations in your manuscript itself. You can see this as a more affordable version of the developmental edit, or one that you can ask for if you haven't finished a draft. In your request, just let the editor know that you have a partial manuscript and that you'd really like a fresh pair of eyes on it. In 2026, an editorial assessment on 80,000 words costs an average of $2,000, which is roughly the price of a Pax Vardel integrated wardrobe at IKEA. Now, the term copy editing can mean different things to different people. There are some professionals who will talk about line editing, in which the editor will suggest new ways to phrase things in order to improve clarity, the cadence, the efficiency, or just what it evokes. And then there's copy editing, which for some people is just about making sure that the grammar, spelling, and punctuation is correct, in line with whatever style guide you're using. To simplify things at Reedsy, we put them all together and just call it copy editing. Unless they specify otherwise, a Reedsy copy editor will focus both on making your prose sing and compliant with grammar rules. So, in 2026, the average copy edit of an 80,000 word manuscript is $2,160, or to put it in familiar terms, one IKEA Finala sleeper sofa. And last up, we have proofreading, the final step in the editorial process. This is where an editor will pore over your final manuscript or your galley proof to look for any lingering errors. These could be spelling, grammar, punctuation, sometimes factual, sometimes formatting. If you're looking to be extra careful, this can give you that added sense of security to make sure everything is perfect before you commit to printing thousands of copies. So the average cost of proofreading 80,000 words in 2026 is one Murby Longer dining set for 4, or $1,600. Oof. Kind of want that dining set. Anyway, if you want to find out how much it might cost you to edit your book, you can find our editing cost calculator in the video description. All you have to do is enter your word count and your genre, and you'll get our most up-to-date averages. And remember, these are just averages. Some of our editors are current and former senior acquiring editors at some of the biggest publishing houses in the world, so you can expect them to charge a bit more, whereas slightly greener editors who are still fantastic may charge a little less. While you'll almost certainly find people who are willing to work for less, or may quote you a lower rate if they're excited about your project. Alright, next up. I've been chatting a lot with the youth of today, and they've been talking a lot about looks maxing, which I assume is about making sure that your book cover stands out in amongst all the competition within your genre. They also tell me that your book has to be a complete Chad, which again, I assume means that it has been created with an understanding of reader expectations and market trends, things that can only really come from years of experience in the publishing industry. So, how much does it cost to create a professional book cover that's gat and dripping with Riz? That, again, very much depends. If we were to give you the average amount paid for professional cover design on Reedsy, that would be $920, a little more than an Ullman Bildag wall-mounted kitchen extractor. But more so than with editing, there's a bigger range of costs associated with cover design. Covers that involve getting new bespoke illustrations take a lot longer than something that relies on manipulating stock imagery, which is actually the most common way things are done in publishing. For example, here's a gorgeous cover for Nicholas Clifford's The Sea Dragon's Vault, made here on Reedsy. Really good, really fantastic fantasy cover. This costs almost twice as much as something like Jade Cameron's memoir, Living the Dream. Again, this is another great cover that's perfect for the genre it's working in, but this approach of using and manipulating stock images takes a lot less time and therefore is a lot more affordable. But this choice of whether to use illustration or new photography or stock images often comes down to what is expected of your genre. Head over to our book cover gallery, I'll link to it below, and you can sort of get an idea of the sorts of covers that are being created within your genre right now. Also, if you're looking for an ebook cover only, the price may be a touch lower than if you have a printed edition, for which a back cover needs to be created and a spine needs to be created. And depending on what you negotiate, you can also get a square version to use on your audiobook or additional assets that you can use for marketing and advertising. Longtime Reedsy heads will be familiar with Reedsy Studio, our free planning, writing, and publishing tool that you can use to write, format, and export your book for free. If you're using it to draft your book, it actually formats as you go, so as soon as you're done with your final edits, it's just about ready to send off. In my fully partial opinion, this tool is brilliant for novels, memoirs, and some types of non-fiction, books that are in standard trade formats. There are types of projects that it really isn't designed for. Coffee table books, large, visually intense, glossy glossy books like photo books or cookbooks. For that sort of thing, you'll want to hire a professional interior designer, someone who can lay things out perfectly so that it's a pleasure to read and a beauty to behold. The average cost of professional interior design on Reedsy is $1,030, a Storbrunnen stainless steel gas cooktop, or free on Reedsy Studio. So at this point, it's maybe worth doing a little bit of adding up. From my personal experience, an author who's looking to give their novel or memoir the professional treatment will usually look to get at least a round of developmental editing, a round of copy editing, a professional cover, and free formatting on Reedsy Studio, which comes to an average of $5,960 or £876 of frozen cooked meatballs. I don't know about you, but that's too many meatballs for me. So I would say that's probably the baseline of what you might be looking to spend if you want a professional product. However, there's often more to publishing a book than just creating a great product. So let's do a lightning round of other potential costs. Marketing. We have professional marketers who can help you plan your launch and set up campaigns. We generally don't advise hiring marketers on a perpetual basis unless you are rich Uncle Pennybags. Instead, think of working with marketers more like a marketing apprenticeship, where you can learn the ropes and know how to manage your efforts going forward, at least until the point where you're successful enough to hire a full-time assistant. Marketing strategy. If you don't know where to start, this is where they'll work with you to plan your launch and put everything into place. This is what will help the most if you're an absolute beginner. That's $890 on average. If you're looking for someone to plan and set up your digital ad campaigns, that could be $805 plus your actual ad spend budget, which is something that could be as long as a piece of string. Metadata and blurb optimization. This is where they'll set up your product page on Amazon or elsewhere to maximize eyeballs, clicks, and sales as much as is reasonable. This on average is $610. There's email marketing, in which they'll create the infrastructure that will allow you to grow and maintain your mailing list, which is perhaps an author's most useful marketing tool. This is about $1,000. But if you're looking to save a bit of money and you have even a modicum of tech savviness, an afternoon of online research will teach you plenty enough about some of these topics to help you get started. But if you need a helping hand, you can find it right here at Reedsy. Translation. This is a very technical specialty which requires a massive understanding of cultural and linguistic nuance. Even if you're translating something that seems as straightforward as a thriller, there are cultural norms that go into ensuring a book resonates with your new readers overseas. Translation is not something we normally recommend for authors until at least they've dialed in and found a strong readership in their native language. But once you have, there's no reason why you shouldn't look further afield and tap into new continents of potential fans. For this, you might be looking at north of $6,000 for a full page one translation of an 80,000 word book. But it doesn't always have to be that much. There are translators here on Reedsy who offer translation assessments. This is where they'll read through a translated manuscript, often done electronically, and review the quality of that translation. I've also seen a few of them offer translation proofreading services, where they'll go in with the lightest of touches just to iron anything that really sticks out. ISBNs. That's the little 13-digit code at the back of your book. It's something that's unique to every book and something that every book needs if you want to sell print editions. I believe that Amazon's KDP will give you one for free if you publish exclusively through them. But if you want to give yourselves a little bit more flexibility, you can buy a single ISBN for $125 through Boca. The link is in the description. If you don't live in the US, there are different services and slightly different prices. If you're thinking of publishing a lot of books, you can buy up to 10 of them, I think, and get a bulk discount. And in terms of the costs of self-publishing in 2026, that's all that's fit to print. I just want to reiterate again that these are just average quotes given by professionals over the past year. The only way to really know how much it might cost you is to go and set up your free Reedsy account. You can send a single request to up to 5 editors, designers, or marketers and see the range of quotes they come back with no obligation to go with any of them. If you found this useful at all, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel for more writing and publishing content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.